So today I'm gonna be teaching you how to make this beanie on your circular knitting machine. I'm gonna be using a Sentro 48, okay, because that's the right size for me, for an adult person. And if you wanna make it smaller for kids, you better use the Sentro 40. Okay, for this tutorial I'm gonna use two different colors of yarn. Make sure they are of a similar weight. Okay, you can even use two solid colors. I use this color because I had just a little bit, so I made just the brim out of it and the flowers. But because I wanted to match with the sweater that I made last week. Okay, this sweater I made out of panels and tubes. If you don't know how to make panels yet, you can go down the description below. I made a specific course for that, for you guys that have a really hard time making panels. It's a full 2 hours course of videos with like step by step of how to make a panel, so you can make this design after that as well, okay? So this tutorial I'm gonna teach you how to make the embroidery and the pom-pom at the end. So if you already know how to make a beanie, you can jump straight to that chapter, and if you are a beginner, you can start from the beginning. It's a very beginner friendly tutorial. So let's dive into it. Now, if you're making your first beanie, it's always good to make cakes. The cakes, I'm gonna put a image here of the one that I use to make my cakes, and that's because you can just remove the yarn from the middle very easily. To start a beanie, you don't really need to use waste yarn because we're gonna cinch both ends at the end. All you have to do is just put the yarn through the first needle, which can be your white or the other one. We are going to be using the tube mold of our machine, and make sure you grab the yarn this way, and when it goes under, you can just leave it, and then put the yarn on the back of the second peg, in the front, on the back, the front, on the back, the front. Every time you put through the front, make sure the yarn is just like that, inside that little hook, okay? Inside the hooks. And so keep going like that. Make sure you don't miss any, otherwise you have to restart your whole beanie. Last one. On the back of this peg, and inside the yarn guide here, okay? And then you can put it through the tension holder. I like this first one. This is a way to check if it's not too tight. Just slide it through and see how easy it goes through. If it's too tight, just put it through the next one. I think for my yarn, this next one is actually perfect. The third one would probably be too loose. And to tell you the truth, I actually don't use this. I do it with my hands because I prefer. But just to show you guys how it works, I'm doing it here. So second step, make sure the yarn, when the stitch is getting made, make sure this yarn is always on the bottom of the peg. So very slow for you guys. This first row. Now this is how the yarn has to be in this first row, okay? So make sure it's just like that. If you have anything hanging out here and that's too long, that means you have to restart again, okay? Because there will be drop stitches, and reality is it's easier to just restart again. And then as well, you get to practice more and learn how to not drop stitches. Here I'm gonna have, in this third row, I'm gonna have loops in every single stitch, okay, different than the second one. You always have to make sure they are on the bottom of your peg. See, here, this is right on the bottom of the peg, and that's when the stitch gets made, because then on the next row this loop's gonna come out and make the stitch. So make sure every time you pass through the hook that's the working pegs, the yarn has to be on the bottom. So for a beanie it's basically that. I'm gonna be making a total of 130 rows, okay? Because I'm making a beanie for me. And so I'm using the Sentro 48 because I have a Age 46 as well. I thought it was a bit too tight, so I'm making on this one. So I'm gonna count 45 rows and then I'm gonna change to this other yarn, okay? Now I ended up making 40 rows only. Just make sure you make the same here and here so you have the same size, and 40 for the brim. So now I'm going to grab the yarn from the middle of my row. I'm going to cut this one off like this. Just leave it like that. Make sure it goes inside the last hook. And then just drop the next color in there. Right in front of the very next peg. Just drop it there. And we're gonna make a knot later just so we can tie it off properly when we finish the beanie, okay? And then you can start cranking with the other color. Just make sure it grabs, the first stitches are inside the hooks. And went through the first row, you can just pull it a bit here, make sure it's tight. And then keep making rows, like 40 rows of this color now, okay? Now that I finished my 40 rows with this color here, I'm just gonna cut it, put it on the back there, put that same color back again, and then start working with the other color. Make sure you pull it tight. While you make your beanie as well, we can put it to the top like this. Just leave it like this so it doesn't touch the bottom. Now to cast off the stitches, we're gonna use this Sentro needle here. You can cut around 50 centimeters of yarn, just a little tail, so you can use it to cast off the stitches, and just pull this yarn here at the end of the last peg. And then we're going to make a full row without yarn. Now make sure you stop here, otherwise this loop here is gonna come out of this hook and you're gonna lose stitches, okay? So just stop right before the last one. We are going to put this yarn through the needle and we're going to start grabbing these loops here this way. Okay, I'm gonna put close by so you can see. And we're gonna grab one by one. At the beginning we need to grab one by one, but as you go you can put 2 or 3 stitches. Just because they are a little tight here now, I need to do this way. Now I removed all the stitches from the machine to this yarn tail, and now I'm just gonna remove it from there. So I'm gonna try it on and see if it's the right size for me and if the brim has the right size that I wanted. And then I'm just gonna make a few flowers here just to match with the sweater that I made before. So I need to see exactly where I'm gonna put them. So that's why I'm gonna fold in half now before I even do anything, because we need this open to actually make the embroidery here, so you can't cinch it just yet, so just leave the tails like this. And then after we do the embroidery in one of the sides only, we can then cinch and finish this beanie, okay? So now that you fold it in half and you already tried on yourself, and if you're using this type of yarn as well, just choose the side you prefer. If this side or that side. I actually like this one because it has a little more of white in it that matches with this. So now what I'm going to do, because I want to embroider these flowers, and I know these flowers because I made before on my sweater. I know they are actually a little long. They take like a few rows down this way. I'm gonna kind of place markers where I want the middle of them to go. Okay, so these flowers, they take like 4 or 5 stitches, so you just count 1, 2, 3, 4, like every little space underneath here is 1 row, and they take like 4 to the side as well, so 1, 2, 3, 4. It's gonna go all the way to here, just so I know where my flowers are going. And now I can unfold this because I know it fits me and it worked really well for what I wanted. The brim's the right size as well. And you just unfold it like this, so we can now make a knot. Now I normally use a small hook just to do this, these tails, and I think it's just easier this way. So just go one way. Try to match on the color that the tail is, so it doesn't show on the front. And then back to the other side, and then back here. And repeat that with all your tails. Now, now that I placed markers where my flowers go, I could actually make one more here, I think. I made this flower before and it takes around almost a meter of yarn. Just choose the colors you like from your yarn if you're using a different color one. And then the middle of the flower will be the same color here. So I think you could probably use this one, but not for the French knot, okay? For the French knot, you need to use this slippery metal one. That's just a tapestry needle, okay? So make a loop and put it through. Okay, and then we're gonna make a knot right in the middle here. Okay, just make a knot there. Put the needle through right where your marker is. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the needle through the middle of my yarn. I'm gonna see if that works. I actually never did that, but it was an idea that I had. So it's properly tied. So it's secure this way. And now you can just remove this. Let's first make the petals. Okay, always make sure you don't stretch anything, so you have to be really light with your hands when you embroidering on knitwear. Now I'm gonna count like here, I'm gonna count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Like, I mean, make the petals as long as you want them to be. And I always make the first one all the way down like this. And also leave that yarn always on that side, so you're ready to make the next one right next to it, okay? And I make like them all in that same angle. It could be a bit higher. And so keep making, I'm making 5 of them, okay? And then it's ready to make here the next one. Always make sure that tail, you don't put the needle through the middle of the yarn, you always put on the side and then on that side because you're going that way, okay? From this one you can start working right on top of it. So I'm gonna be working like 4 or 5 times. You can even go one further, like this. If you think the petal is too short, let's go one further. Again, don't pull it too tight, they have to be really loose. As you move to the next petal, make sure you start making that way as well. Okay, so this is one of them. And then I'm just gonna keep doing it. Going to the next one, make sure you make the same amount in every one of your petals. You always be very gentle with this because you don't want to squeeze the niche. Okay, so 4 there, 4 here, and then 4 here. And one more, just, I'll have to make a small knot on the back, but that's all right. Okay, this is my first flower. I'll be making 4 more, maybe 5. I think I'm gonna put one here, okay? So just repeat that where the markers are. No, we're gonna go straight. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Always on that side because you're going that way. And now repeat this into that last one a few times. You can make as thick as you want. You can make a very thick flower. It looks nice as well. This is my second time beading on knitting. I was planning to do that for a while now. I think these beanies that we make in our machines, they can look so much better, like with just a little, little 20 minutes you spend on making something like this, gives such a special, like, gives it such a, like a handmade look to it, and it looks more expensive as well. Like if you guys make markets and that, it looks much more like a, like a custom handmade piece that no one will have the same. And yeah, as I was saying, I think it gives such a like a nice touch to it. And you can probably make it like $15 more just for, a special touch to a handmade product. That sometimes when you're on a market and there's more people selling the same stuff, sometimes your customer just prefers something that is actually has more of a handmade look than the one right next to you, you know what I mean? Okay, now you can rearrange the petals if they are tight enough. Okay, that's our second flower. And I'm gonna make now one here That's gonna drop right in the middle of this, and then one here and probably one more here, I think. And this is what I have now. And I was remembering always make sure these flowers are very loose, like they're not tied at all when you're making the petals. And that's because don't forget that the beanie stretches when you put it on. So yeah, just try and make it not tied and not too loose at the same time. It's a very fine line and you have to be very, very careful when you're making these petals. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a little stem coming out from here to all of them. So I'm going to start around here somewhere. And I'm going to make this stitch. It goes like this, and then it makes a little loop like this. So it's around a stitch long. Like if you started on this stitch, you just go to the next knitted stitch. And that's how is the way you kind of measure it. Just make a loop, go into that same hole and back into the next one, aiming the direction you want to go. Now I want to quickly show you how I made these rows here, because it's so easy. Like I'm gonna make a rose right here in the middle, I think, right here. Because it's very little. And then we're gonna make the same thing we did on the other one. We're gonna make 5 very short petals. It has to be an odd number. Like if you're making a bigger one, it could probably be 7, but it has to be an odd number, okay? And then probably here. I choose the red because I wanted to make a red rose. And then here. And then we're gonna start it from the middle, like right from where I am now. And the only thing we're gonna do is it's quite easy. We're gonna go on the bottom of one and on the top of the other, and then on the bottom again. And then this coming from the bottom, we're gonna pass this one and go for the next one. Until they're covered, so it's important that they have a similar size. I mean the first little petals. It's important that they have a similar size, because then at the end they are all covered by the yarn on the top. And there you can see that it starts to shape really quickly. And then quickly hide this tail, because don't forget we're gonna double this, so these tails won't show anywhere. And there you go. I think I'm gonna make one more here, maybe, just to balance the composition. Now, to make this French knot, you only need a little bit of yarn, so I just got a little bit here. And if you can find a less thicker yarn than this one, I didn't have. So it is a little too thick, this yarn, but still works though. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna go just where, like if you want it to be a little longer, you just go where you want it to kind of sit, the middle of your flower, and put it just like this. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna make a few loops around. I normally make 5, okay? 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and just slide that needle through. And that's why it's important to have a metal needle. You wouldn't be able to do this with your Sentro needle, okay? And just pull it this way, and just down underneath. Okay, so now that my flowers are ready, I can cinch it, so I can close both sides. I'm gonna start with this one because this one's gonna be inside the other one. So what I'm gonna do is just pull it until it's closed. And then with the needle, with your little hook, you can make a knot here on the other side. I'm a little lazy to put the needle through every time, so that's what I do. Okay, so it's closed, and then bring this yarn inside there. Make sure you make all the knots here before you do that. Okay, and then with this yarn you're gonna close here as well. Probably better to use a darning needle for that. And then just hide it inside. And repeat the same with this other one. And here is our beanie. So just one thing that I forgot, I'm using this little thing here to make pom-poms. It's like 2 of them. And then all you do is just face it like that so you can run a little yarn through this later on. And then just really wrap the yarn around it a few times. This is a pom-pom maker. That's how it comes. Comes in 2, like you can make smaller ones as well. And just wrap around very thick. I think should be fine. I don't make a pom-pom for a very, very long time. My mom taught me when I was a little girl. Keep wrapping around until the middle of it is full. Like there's no space here and it's kind of straight. So when you cut the pom-pom, it won't come undone before you wrap the yarn around it. Right, and then you put both just like this. It's quite important that this middle closes off, so when you cut the yarn now, because you have to cut it now, the whole thing doesn't open up. So make sure you grab a piece of yarn. I have a piece of yarn ready just to tie it around the pom-pom when you finish, and then you have to cut it now. Right, this is one side. Now be very careful because you need to repeat the same on the other side. Now make sure you have sharp scissors when you're doing that, okay? Now the next step is gonna be just put the yarn through this little space here and make a knot. Make a very tight knot, so you're gonna hold all this yarn together when you remove this, okay? So it has to be very tight as you can. So now we are going to remove these guys here. And just arrange this pom-pom so it's so it actually looks like a pom-pom. I actually wasn't sure about it, so what do you guys think, pom-pom or no pom-pom? Let me know in the comments below, okay? What do you reckon? I think I like pom-pom actually. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below, guys. I love making this beanie. It looks so, so cute. Thank you for watching again, and I see you next week.